So today I want to talk about something I've been trying to avoid for a while. Specifically, the attempts by Donald Trump to perform a coup and steal the election from President-elect Joe Biden. I am not going to be talking about voter fraud. I'll spend a very short amount of time on it. But I want to focus more on two very specific cases that set very scary precedents in this country and their implications both legally and for the United States. So, getting the voter fraud stuff quickly out of the way. There has been no significant cases of voter fraud. All of the court cases have left out the word fraud because they know they can't win anything. All of the testimonies have been just outrageous, and it's almost like we're in this circus show where nobody's really coming up with legitimate evidence, but the right-wing, conservative, reactionary types just seem to keep thinking we're getting all this evidence that's amounting, and QAnon is writing one of the greatest fictions in history. So, I'm not addressing that beyond that point. What I do want to call attention to is that Trump has actually pressured the governor of Georgia to help him overturn Biden's win in the state. The Washington Post goes on to say that hours before he was scheduled to hold a rally in Georgia on behalf of the state's two GOP senators, Trump pressed Kemp, the governor of Georgia, to call a special session of the state legislature for lawmakers to override the results and appoint electors who would back the president at the Electoral College, according to two people familiar with the conversation who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the private call. Trump also asked the governor to demand an audit of signatures on mail ballots, something Kemp has previously noted he has no power to do. Kemp declined the president's entreaty, according to the people. Just to summarize that is him attempting to steal votes from the Electoral College in his favor by pressuring and conspiring with another politician. If this all is true, I am alleging that he has committed conspiracy in the state of Georgia. The President of the United States has the power to grant pardons. The President, however, has never shown any ability to pardon themselves, nor do they have immunity for any crimes they've committed in a state. That is the general understanding of pardons. So if Trump actually has committed this particular crime, he would not be able to exempt himself from it. I don't know if he'd ever get prosecuted or pushed for it, but I am alleging in this particular case that he has committed conspiracy to commit election fraud as per Georgia's code. And I am going to go over that right now. The election code specifically states, a person commits the offense of conspiracy to commit election fraud when he or she conspires or agrees with another to commit a violation of this chapter. The crime shall be complete when the conspiracy or agreement is effected and an overt act is furtherance thereof has been committed, regardless of whether the violation of this chapter is consummated. A person convicted of the offense of conspiracy to commit election fraud involving a violation of this chapter, which is a felony, shall be punished by imprisonment for not less than 1 year, nor more than 1/2 of the maximum period of time for which he or she could have been sentenced if he or she had been convicted of the crime conspired to have been committed, by 1/2 the maximum fine to which he or she could have been subjected if he or she had been convicted of such a crime. Can they just use they instead of he or she? It would just make the language so much less clunky. A person convicted of the offense of conspiracy to commit election fraud involving a violation of this chapter, which has a misdemeanor, shall be punished as for a misdemeanor. So I'm not saying that this is some grand crime that's going to land him in prison or be the gotcha that stops him or anything like that. But I would argue that him attempting to make an agreement in which the governor of the state of Georgia is supposed to change electors on the Electoral College to shift their votes is an attempt at conspiracy to election fraud. I'm alleging this. I would love to see what the courts have to say about it. And that's where I'm going to leave that particular one. But the other one that I wanted to call to attention is this particular case. Michael Flynn has called for martial law in the United States. And I saw this and I don't even know what to make of this. He set up a Twitter post to link to his We the People convention website, where they are all asking for the president to invoke limited martial law to hold a new election in full paid. This was in the Washington Times. And if legislatures and courts can't follow the Constitution, basically, that we need to have this whole revote and set up a new election. And that the military would run things beyond that. What do you even say to that? You're going to call for martial law and hand power over to this president in order to confirm what all of the courts have been confirming, what all of the legal precedences have said and done. And you can go through it yourself if you want, but this reads really terribly. We have well-funded, armed, and trained Marxists in Antifa and BLM strategically positioned in our major cities, acting openly with violence to silence opposition to their anti-American agenda. Like, this is ridiculous. This is not what Antifa and BLM is. This is not what's going on in the streets. But yet they're just putting this forward and asking to just hand the President of the United States martial law. And in that, I want to call in, because Flynn is a general. He's a former general of the United States. When you call something like that into account, that actually counts as sedition, as far as I understand it. Sedition, that the accused created revolt, violence, or disturbance against civil authority, lawful civil authority, that the accused acted in concert with another person or persons, and that the accused did so with the intent to cause the overthrow or destruction of that authority. I would argue that trying to commit to martial law when you have a free election and to subvert the rulings of that free election, that is sedition. So what is the implications of all this? Well, legally, none of this is probably going to amount to much. This is just a lot of posturing, and I'm hoping that nothing ends up coming of this. However, this is setting a very dangerous precedent in the United States that we are reacting in a very, very proto-fascist fashion in the attempt to allow a leader of the government to subvert the election in multiple different ways and opening new avenues to subvert the little bit of democracy that is still left in the United States in order to secure power for Donald Trump. They are going to do anything to secure his position. I am fearful because while he has failed at every one of these coup attempts and is likely to continue to fail, he is going to be a loud voice over the next 4 years. And as I've said before, and I will say again, we need to watch out for whoever his successor is, because a more charismatic leader with more frustration and anger from the US population might be actually able to put some of this forward. We need to keep an eye out, and we need to just be careful. These attempts at a coup are something we should be taking seriously, even if they fail. His failures, his inability to enact the things that he'd like to see happen is less important than the amount of people backing him and the amount of people supporting this and the amount of people who generally believe that the election has been either a fraud or that martial law would be a good idea or that just changing the electoral votes is a legitimate process. With that said, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the bell for notification, follow me on Twitter and check out my Discord in the description down below. And with that said, my name is Anarchist Tara, and I hope you enjoyed watching.